Hello everyone, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to become a software engineer quickly. Let's get started. First thing you want to notice is the first point here is your soft skills. This is definitely a crucial point of becoming a software engineer because it's really overlooked in some engineers' eyes as they go through progressing into their career. So one soft skill you definitely need to work on is your communication skill. It doesn't matter who it is, I always need to improve. Everybody needs to improve their communication. Being precise, being clear, being to the point is very helpful in the real world in any scenario, and especially when it comes to software, because when you get to the technical details, you're going to need to know, how do I explain this to a business owner, or how do I explain, the database schema to a business owner, etc. You also need to be able to work on a team. You're not going to be developing on your own anymore. You're not some code monkey in the back room who just, sits there and hammers away on his keyboard and just produces code. It's not like that anymore, and you got to be able to work with other people around you. And the next one, it's pretty common sense to me, problem solving. If you want to be a software engineer or any engineer, you're given a problem and you need to solve it. However you solve that, whatever means you try to do, go ahead and do that. But you definitely got to be good with problem solving in a general sense and being able to attack a problem and come up with a solution. The next one I have here is humility. This is a sign of a good leader as well. If you're able to practice humility, you will be able to understand where you lack and where you're confident in. So you don't want to become so confident where you're arrogant and you feel like you're just stepping over your line and you just don't listen to anybody, but you also don't want to be so humble where you have no confidence and you get nothing done. That won't happen here. This picture I have in the lower right hand corner is pretty funny. I'm inviting you to my seminar on improving your communication skills. I'd like you to attend. Grunt once for yes or twice for no. It's pretty funny. There's some people out there like that, unfortunately. Hopefully you aren't like that. So that's definitely helpful to have good communication skills and be able to articulate your point in a fine manner. The next topic I have is learn languages and concepts, not syntax. Syntax in a language doesn't matter nearly as much as the logic that goes behind the code itself and the languages and the breadth of languages out there. It's definitely better to understand it from that. So let's get into that. So the first thing you want to do is be able to learn how to learn. If you're only stuck on one technology and you're using that technology for a long time and you're never moving off of it, well, that's a sign that you're not really a versatile engineer. You're not able to solve problems in the best possible solution. So being able to learn many different languages and many different solutions to problems is definitely a key to becoming a good software engineer. Focus on topics and the logic and concepts of the problem at hand. Don't necessarily think about the syntax of the code itself. You want to know, what an if block does, your loops, newing up something, null value, all of these concepts that matter so you can understand it more from a higher perspective and be able to apply the syntax down below as time goes on, because you want to learn syntax of many languages and be able to read many languages. It's just very helpful. And diversify your skill set. That's pretty common sense to me, but you just want to be able to, have a tool at the ready and be able to solve any problem at the ready. It just kind of depends on, your skill set, and you want to make sure that you're opening that skill set up so you're able to, solve more problems and become a better engineer as time goes on. Another funny picture down here that pretty much explains an engineer's life sometimes. There's definitely one or two people like this that you'll know. So you'll see them if you become one in the workforce. So the next one I have here is know the best tools to solve a problem. This is a huge deal here because you don't want to necessarily just use Python to magically make HTML code somehow if there's a package out there for some of that. I was just watching a talk the other day about that. You want to know, what kind of database am I going to use? What's my front end stack going to be like? What's my back end stack going to be like? And we'll get into that here. So the first one, like I mentioned here, is being able to recognize your front end versus your back end. You want to know what you're going to use for your front end material. Right now, really hot JavaScript frameworks for front end work is React and Vue.js. React.js and Vue.js. They're two very popular frameworks. You want to know, you got to use HTML, or you're going to use a CSS, or your front end might be a mobile application, so on Android or on iOS, or the list goes on and on. You want to think of what the user is actually going to see. That's what a front end essentially is. And you want to know what your back end is. So you're going to want to communicate from the front end to a server somehow to retrieve data or process data or do something with data. So your back end might be written in Java or C++ or Python or Node.js, and the list goes on. There's a whole bunch of options here, but definitely take a quick Google search and you'll get a really in-depth explanation of that. So the next point here that I have is relational versus non-relational databases. Pretty key in modern technology because there's a trend slowly moving towards non-relational databases, but it doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to use solely non-relational databases because that's the hot thing, or you're solely going to use relational databases because that's the hot thing. Right now, I think the last thing I saw online, I saw an infographic where it was, I think, 75% relational and 25% non-relational databases out there. But that was trending upward over the past decade. So it's good to know, a relational database is something where you're going to have data relate from table to table. You're going to have a table of data that's maybe got an index of an ID of some sort, and that ID of data relates to another table somehow. And that's good to know that. And non-relational databases is just a database that, is able to maybe store in a document style or maybe just a key value pair or something like that. A good example of a relational database would be like Oracle or MySQL, and non-relational, an example of that would be like MongoDB. And be up to modern technologies. It's really important to be, up and fresh with the new things that are happening because you're going to get behind if you just, if you're writing COBOL or Fortran code, which there are a lot of developers out there for that, and it's very in demand still, but, it's not the new and not the best thing that you could be moving forward to. So it's good to be up on modern stuff. Be agile. Being agile is just effective because I don't mean that solely in the agile principles, but I mean that in the way of understanding, how to be flexible, how to be approachable, and be able to constantly be on top of your game within a career environment. And this picture down here definitely shows what it's like when some people are given new technology and they just put up a wall and they say, nope, I don't know it, so I'm not using it. So that's always really funny. The next point I have is be able to abstract thoughts to more than just code. You want to think about it from a design and an architecture sort of view. You want to design the application out that you're going to do. You're going to have your front end, you're going to have your back end, you'll have a database, and how they all relate, intertwine together matters and makes up your project. So let's get into that. So like I said, you want to think about design. You don't just want to think about, writing the code itself down on a line-by-line basis. You want to think about the overarching, structure of your project. Like you've probably heard, microservice architectures are very popular right now. You have end-tier architectures where you have a front end as a tier, a back end as a tier that connects to your database as a tier, and how they interact. You draw out that, and definitely think about it from that sort of perspective. Use a whiteboard. It's very effective, and it's great to just be up on top of everything that you're doing on a whiteboard, because when you're doing it just in code, you're not really thinking about the design, you're thinking about the specific code you're writing. So back up and think about it from a higher level. Architecture, that plays into like the design point, so same thing there. And high level diagrams, so if you're able to understand UML diagrams, that's always a good thing. UML stands for Universal Markup Language, I believe. Or something like that. It's just diagrams and making it very specific for software engineering. So whenever you go and you're able to document what you've done, you're able to understand the system and how it flows. And this image down here shows what it's like for different people solving the problem. A mathematician, they have their thing. Physicists, they have their thing. And an engineer is just like, dude, how tall is your building? He's like, that's all I need to know. You want to keep it simple, and you always want to be able to understand the problem and digest it in a manner that is effective for your customer so you can solve problems. So the next point I have here is be able to utilize a sandbox in open source projects. An open source project on GitHub or a sandbox that is free out there, like open source software that you can download and use, definitely would recommend it. And let's get into that as why. You want to have personal projects. You don't want to have just college experience. You don't want to have just maybe a Scrum Master experience and you're a project manager experience. You want to be able to have a project and see it from beginning to end, and you want to be able to maintain that project and even documenting that project along the way. If you're able to follow Scrum methodologies, that's always good. Employers love to see that. So that's always a good thing to keep in your back pocket, is just to contribute to an open source project or make your own personal project in order to become a better engineer and, have your work be seen. And the quicker you can do this, the better, because, it's all about becoming quick. And all of these tips here can be implemented, really fast. And it's not a lot of work to get going on these. It'll be different to master each one of these and to become really good at all of these. But you want to be able to, assess a problem and, maybe be like, oh, I got a project that I've done that for in the past. And that's always good to think about it from that perspective, because experience will always win. You'll always win with experience. People look for, jobs out there. It's like, oh, you want to apply for a C++ developer, but they require 4 years of experience in C++. Well, the guy who has 10 years experience who is applying for the job will win over the guy who has 2 years, obviously. So the sooner you can get started with that, the better. And show off your project. When you're in an interview where you can have the opportunity to talk about work that you've done, mention it. No harm, no foul. So it's always good to have good experience and good projects under your belt. So the last point I have here is formal education. This is a huge deal for most employers out there. A pretty common thing you see is a bachelor's in computer science. You don't have to go that route, so I'll explain how you can do that. So you want to think about it. There's many different ways you can attack becoming formally educated. So how I've done it is I got my bachelor's in computer science, and then I also did online resources as well. So I kind of did a combination of all 4 of these and a couple others out there, ways you can solve problems or, learn about how to become a software engineer and what you have to do. College for a computer science degree is always recommended if you're able to. Coding boot camps, most major cities have a boot camp of some sort where you can go and, 6 months, maybe your professor or the teacher for the class is like, in 6 months, we're going to make a project from here and we're going to finish it here, and you're going to be able to see that and it's going to be done, and you'll be able to apply that experience to other, classes out there. So it's always good to take advantage of that. I would highly recommend Code Academy. I'm not sponsored by them, but I would highly recommend them. That's where I learned React.js very well. They really follow through step by step of what you're learning. They explain it, and it's really easy to follow through. And then again, you're on YouTube, so look up video tutorials. Look up, blog posts that have information shared. There's endless amounts out there, so just don't be afraid of, figuring it out. So all of this ties together because you want to be able to quickly become a software engineer, right? So that's how we started this out. You want to be able to do it quickly. How do you do it quickly? Well, you want to be able to take all these tools and you want to apply them in a way to yourself where you go one by one and you say, okay, I'm going to get really good at my soft skills. I'm going to do my soft skills, soft skills, and you're going to learn about them for as long as you can and practice it in your real life. And then you'll go and be like, okay, I want to learn some code. Okay, let's learn about Java. Let's learn about Java for a little bit. Let's learn about the concepts behind it, of programming itself. And the quicker you can do that, the better. Everyone learns at their own pace, but these tips right here hopefully will be able to help you succeed and become a software engineer quickly. And thanks for watching this video. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below. Follow me on social media if you can, and thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.